everybody. Good morning and welcome in. It is Thursday, Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Glad you're with us here today as we broadcast from the Montgomery Regional Airport. Getting better the more you use it. Probably picked the coldest day, well, maybe of the year. Maybe not the coldest, but it certainly was chilly on the way here this morning. But everything's great in here inside MGM. I'm going to tell you about all the great benefits that come with it and why you should be flying from Montgomery. But of course, we got a lot of sports to talk about today as well. A lot of guests that are going to be joining us here on the program today. Our normal Thursday rotation with Jason Caldwell from Auburn Undercover, the TiderInsider, Rodney Orr, brought to you exclusively by the Destin Connection Seafood Market, and our man Bart Hyche, our college basketball insider, will join us today as well. So a lot going on here from MGM, and we're certainly glad that you are with us here today in association with our good friends at Yellowhammer News, where you can watch us each and every day. Also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, heck, you name it, we're there. So you can find us. Just search Longshore and McKnight, and you'll be good to go in checking us out here. Here again from MGM, good morning to everyone out there as well. We appreciate it. Barry will be joining me here in just a moment. You can see here, there's the MGM logo right behind us here this morning at the airport. People making their way on their travels wherever they may be headed here today. Convenience, that's what it's all about, and I certainly will tell you about it throughout the morning. Okay, so where do we start? Obviously, college basketball is probably a good place to start. And Alabama loses last night. And boy, did they lose. I mean, wow. Were they ever in the game? That's kind of the way I thought about it last night. Is this team ever in the game? Alabama at Missouri, losing on the road. We've talked about Alabama's road schedule ahead. And boy, it's daunting to say the least. But this game started out similar to a game that they played Saturday in Tuscaloosa when the Tide fell down 9-0 right out of the gate. And the same thing happened in Columbia last night. And from that point on, did you really ever think Alabama was going to win the game? Yeah, they fought and scratched and clawed their way, got it close at times. But as I watched that game, I thought to myself, how many times have we come on this program? How many times have we talked about Alabama basketball this year and thought, this is a really good basketball team. This is a team that I think can really make it to the Final Four and win a national championship. And I thought, we haven't done that. It's kind of like, yeah, this is a pretty good team. Yeah, they're fun to watch. They shoot a lot of threes. But as we've seen in games that they've lost, if they're not making the threes, if the threes aren't going in, if they're getting balls swatted away underneath the rim, it makes for a very difficult night. And last night was another prime example of Alabama. Things weren't going their way. They lose the game 110-98. Now, is it the 12-point loss, or is it the fact that Missouri put up 110 points on this Alabama team that Nate Oates just stresses defense? I mean, if you're not going to play defense, you're not going to play. Well, doesn't look like anybody was playing defense last night. For a team to score 110 points on a team that's projected to be a number one seed, really? I've had questions about that as well. Alabama's a number one seed. No, they're not. I mean, let's be real. Let's come on. Let's be real here today. Is this really a number one seed? And am I bailing on them now? Have I really been all in all year? That's what I wondered. As I watched the game last night, I thought, how many times have we come on this program and just, man, this Bama team looks phenomenal. We've said it about another team, but we hadn't said it about this Alabama team. And was last night the beginning of the bottom falling out? If you looked at the remainder of their regular season schedule, I don't know. Barry, am I being too harsh this morning?
You are. Not a number one seed does not equate to, I was never on board with this team the entire time. In any other year, I mean, Alabama fans would be whistling zippity doo-dah about being a number 2 seed, which, you know, I think you're being harsh in the sense that and Alabama fans are guilty of this. My gosh, we are not going to be a national champion. I don't think this is a national championship caliber football team. So you know what that means? We stink out loud. We're terrible. I don't even know why we even fielded a team this year. Now we're starting to hear the same thing in basketball. Really?
Well,
we're not a number
okay.
1 team. Well, I'm here to tell you, I never thought we were a number 1 team. I never thought that that this team was really that good. You know, oh my gosh, you know, it's not
your
all
response
the other.
to your response to how many times have we come on this program since November and said, man, wow, how impressive was that? I'm telling you, this team is solid. We've said that about another team. I don't recall saying this about Alabama. It's just kind of we've been tiptoeing around and, oh, yeah, boy, they're hitting the threes just good. And, you know, but we've gone through a couple of games where Mark Sears had to sit on the bench. And we've gone through a couple of games where they were cold from the three-point line or they're getting stuff swatted away underneath the rim, not playing defense, whatever. When a team scores 110 points on you, I mean, you got to be kidding me. There again, I've been saying it all year. I mean, yeah, they're good. Okay, I see some spurts. But this team doesn't blow you away like some other ones I've seen.
Well, I do admit it is a bad look. If you give up 110 points, I get it. I can handle that. I honestly can. If it's quadruple overtime, you know, 110 in regulation, that ain't good. I mean, that's athletes in action in November. That's how many you score against Weber State in a home tournament or something like that.
So, Barry, if I'm not mistaken, Missouri scored 55 points in both halves. They scored 55 in the first half.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure that's what they.
This is the breakdown, and I had it right in front of me. I want to say that Missouri. Well, here we go. In the first half for Missouri, they ended up scoring 59 in the first
59.
half.
59. Wow,
59.
I was wrong.
So you do the work. You are projected to score 118 in the game if you score 59 per half. So they did have a better defensive second half. They did. They ended up giving up 51 in the second half.
Okay.
So 59 in the first. Alabama was trailing by 13 in the first half.
Yeah.
And they scored 46. And they still were trailing by 13.
So, I'll give you that.
Yes.
They had a better second half. Okay. I'll give you that. Okay. Hey, roll Tide. Only gave up 51 in the second half. And Oates is getting teed up. He's throwing the grease board on the floor. He's pissed. I mean, I'm thinking, Dave, that ain't gonna work. I mean, that ain't gonna work. You kick a chair and whatever. Not gonna work.
You can't get on the headsets and tell the fans to knock it off. How about telling his team to knock it off? This was not a game. Again, I never have thought Alabama was the best team in the nation. There was never a point when I thought this team is the best. And it's very likely that they're not going to be a 1 seed. But do you jump off the bandwagon then? 2 seed for us, I'm telling you, have they ever been a 2 seed before? Maybe they have, but it ain't happened much. I do think.
Whoa. Are we being a little generous in saying 2 seed? I mean, there again, you see what's in front of them?
They do need to be a 2 seed right now. That's a good point. I will give you that point. Maybe not a 2 seed. But a 2 seed now. Here's what was tough. Here's what was tough to try to watch. And usually they're fun to watch. Missouri shot 47 free throws in that game. 47. Man. They missed 16 of them. Otherwise,
Okay.
it could have been even more. But overall, the two teams ended up shooting 68 free throws. This is not a game that John's going to sit there and say, oh boy, I hate for this one to end. This one, has been so great. No.
No,
No, it was not that. Again, it was if it's a 2 seed or a 3 seed, it does not have the look of a national championship team right now. But Alabama fans, can I use a well-worn phrase on this program? They're spoiled, John. I mean, they're outrageous. A bad loss, there's no doubt, and you have a reason to be dissatisfied. But as Billy Joel once sang, in Just the Way You Are, you take the good times, you'll take the bad times. You need to like them just the way they are. They're flawed. I mean, you and I both. This is not Barry saying that this Alabama team is poised for greatness. They're flawed. Boy, whenever they decide not to play defense, it ain't by degrees. I mean, they really don't play defense, especially defense without fouling. Fouling somebody on his way to the bucket is not defense. Fouling a three-point shooter is not defense.
Yeah, I saw at least 2 intentional fouls, and they were intentional. Could have been more. I kind of checked out. I was actually watching a game with a team that actually is good, structured, well coached, plays as they're supposed to, deep. Doesn't let little runs rattle them. Just a championship level team. I was more interested in watching that, believe it or not. But I think I agree with it. This fan base is spoiled. But I think we're talking about 2 different things here, because they're spoiled. They're going to stay spoiled. I mean, they got to go through a couple of, 7-5 football seasons and 500 basketball seasons for them to kind of dial it down a little bit and lose some of that spoiledness. But this fan base was led to believe back in the preseason camp, oh, man, there's been some people see this team practice. Whoo, man, impressive. Might be the best combination of talent Oates has ever had in Tuscaloosa at one time. So the fan base is, being led to believe that, oh, wow, this team's great. And the record's good. I'll give you that. But they're not complete. They're not dominant. You don't let a team score 110 points on you if you're some great team. I just, in some of the other losses that they've had this year, Ole Miss went in there and spanked them in Tuscaloosa. Ole Miss, pretty good team, but not great.
110 points does give you pause. It does. 110 points in regulation. That is, you can't slice that anything different. That's bad. The game I suspect that John did watch was not St. John's DePaul, which almost made the cut for the Phantoms dog of the day. But
give me 2 seconds, Barry, so I can say hello to Charlie McDonald from Capitol Hill on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail.
Hey,
yes, sir. He's flying out of MGM today.
Good. A lot of people are around here.
Auburn
beats Arkansas. Oh.
Man, you better take you're going to Minneapolis. You better take your jacket. Woo, it's going to be cold up there, Charlie.
I've got 2. We're here in Montgomery. Auburn did not shoot the ball well. They score 67. They've been averaging in the 80s. Auburn beats Arkansas at home 67-60. Another double-double from Janai Broome, 16 points, 13 rebounds, as well as Auburn shot the 3 against Alabama on the road on Saturday. They did not shoot. Neither team did. They were a combined, Auburn and Arkansas from 3 were a combined 7 for 43. Auburn was 4 for 24 from 3-point range. They were not shooting it well. They ended up shooting 41%, which isn't terrible. But they had the wherewithal. I think John and I have made this point before. When the shots aren't falling, the defense suffers. Alabama has a tendency to let their offensive performance affect their defense. Boy, their defense was bad. Auburn, if the three-pointers aren't falling, John, Auburn's got a plan B. Auburn's got alternatives. If Alabama's not hitting the threes, boy, they are in trouble. Now, Missouri's better than Arkansas. So we're not comparing opponents, but yeah, Auburn, you're right. I mean, they were well coached. They get after it on defense. I mean, they're very solid defensively, where Alabama has holes. But man, when something's not going right, they've got something else they can try.
Yeah, to me, Auburn's got an answer. They've got a plan B. I don't think Alabama does. And the games they've lost, it's kind of like, well, not going to be our night tonight. You know, threes aren't hitting. You know, we're not overly effective underneath the rim, because it's only, you know, it's only two things with this Bama team. You either hit the three or you're right under the bucket. None of that other stuff matters, you know, and they're not going to shoot anywhere else. So if that's not working, what is plan B? Well, you probably need to play better defense. Well, that didn't happen last night either. Auburn's got that plan.
Defense always plays. You know, defense doesn't take a night off. If the rims are unkind, the defense is always there if you play it well. You look at the numbers, and again, Janai Broome, 16 points, 13 rebounds, another double-double. It was, as it turns out, a really good day for Mark Sears for Alabama, their best player, 35 points in 35 minutes. He didn't play badly. He played very well offensively. Didn't have a ton of help. He kind of dominated the basketball. I mean, you know, he had 5 assists, but Diobati had 13, LeBaron Filan had 14, Holloway had 11. That was basically it. It was the ball, when it's in Mark Sears' hands, it tends to stay in his hands. For somebody like Broome, and really anybody on the Auburn team, they share the ball so much more efficiently than Alabama does. I'm
with you. I'm with you there, Barry. I agree. I noticed that too. But you know, I'm not one to speak there. I mean, sharing the ball, that wasn't my forte, so I can't really talk much about that.
Well, we are at the Montgomery Regional Airport. We are here today to tell you a little bit about what's going on. John, I'm telling you right now where he's located, right in front of the big MGM block, right in the middle of the terminal, right where, you know, people check in, right next to the stairs leading up to TSA and everything. John's going to have people coming by and saying hey and shaking his hand, so just get ready for that. John rarely gets on a flight from the Montgomery Regional Airport without seeing about 8 or 10 of the people that he knows. People around here know, John, flying MGM just makes sense.
Makes a ton of sense, Barry. You look, when you travel, you want it to be convenient, easy. You don't want a lot of hassles. And of course, you want it to be economical as well. You get it all here at MGM, and great choices, great destinations. They can get you to 4 major hubs. They can get you to anywhere on the planet. I mean, think about that. You can go anywhere on this great big green planet of ours from MGM, just make an easy connection at one of the 4 major hubs, and you are good to go. We'll tell you all about it this morning as we broadcast here from Montgomery Airport. Barry, at the bottom of this hour, Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. Top of the next hour, Rodney Orr, the TiderInsider, brought to you exclusively by the Destin Connection Seafood Market. Our resident basketball insider, Bart Hyche, going to join us at the bottom of hour number 2. And your comments on our River Region Straw chat line. You can email us, longshoremcnight@gmail.com. Let's get it going. Am I being too harsh on the Tide this morning? I don't think so.
Oh, I think absolutely so. No question about it. He's John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight on location at the Montgomery Regional Airport, presented by Bud Light.
Okay, joining us now, Brian Reynolds. He is the director of golf at Cambrian Ridge in Greenville on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail. And hey, Brian, I know we've had a lot of rain. Weather hadn't been very cooperative, but that still doesn't mean that our listeners and our viewers can come see you to pick up those trail cards and also all of the new merchandise and equipment that's arriving in your pro shop.
That's right, guys. We've got the new TaylorMade Q35. We've got the new TaylorMade Elite named after the old founder of Callaway, Ely Callaway. We got the TaylorMade, we got the Ping, the Perils rolling in left and right, whether it's Peter Millar, Vineyard Vines, Straight Down, Southern Tide. We've got it all coming in right now. Puma, shop's getting full, running out of room, so we need folks to come buy some stuff. It's getting thick in there.
I love it, Brian. Man, you are just packed in with new merchandise and apparel for the upcoming golf season. And speaking of that upcoming golf season, that trail card will pay for itself in no time. Folks need to go ahead and get that 2025 trail card.
That's right. It pays for itself the first time you use it. It takes your golf, whether you're playing, in Greenville or at Prattville, somewhere around the $46 to $56 price range. If you walk in here without one in our prime season in the spring, we're going to hit you for $125. So, you buy the $50 trail card, pay your $56 for golf. It's still cheaper than walking the door and not having one. So if you're an Alabama resident or live within 2 hours of any trail facility, make sure you get that card, stash it away in your wallet, take a picture of it on your phone so we can give you that discount. And hey, the caveat on top of it is you gain points every time you spend $1 with that trail card, whether it's food and beverage, golf, merchandise, you gain points. And for every 500 points, you get a free round of golf. So, if you're looking to buy a driver, irons, rangefinder, shoes, buy it with us. You get points and you're going to get a free round of golf. If you buy a driver, you get a free round of golf right then, $500.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. That is fantastic. So for more information, go to rtjgolf.com/Cambrian Ridge, or better yet, just go by and see them there in Greenville. What's your phone number for more information and to book that tee time when this weather gets a little better?
Just give us a call at 382-9787. I'm sorry, 382-9787, and we'll get you taken care of.
Awesome. Brian, thank you so much, my friend. A lot of exciting things going on down there at Cambrian Ridge. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, broadcasting here live at the Montgomery Regional Airport, Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Some news I can pass along, Barry, here from the Montgomery Regional Airport. We're always talking about new flights, new destinations, things of that nature. Of course, as I mentioned before the break, Atlanta, Charlotte, Dallas, Fort Worth, Washington's Reagan National, all nonstop destinations from MGM, where that's where you're heading or making a connection to somewhere else. It's ultra convenient. Delta has added another flight here out of MGM to Atlanta, 5 daily round trips to Atlanta, which is the nation's, maybe the world's busiest airport, where you can get just about anywhere. And then, of course, Charlotte, Dallas, and Washington. So many convenient locations, so many convenient connections for you, the traveler, to make, whether it's business or leisure. It all needs to start right here at MGM, as we have seen so many people throughout the years we've been here broadcasting live, taking our advice and making MGM the start of their travels.
Yeah, really convenient website as well. That's where I always start my experience with the Montgomery Regional Airport. Just go to flymgm.com. They got everything you need. You can book a flight, you can check fares, you can, all that stuff available, including some of the, they detail some of the amenities here as well that you don't want to miss. John, when's the last time you ever flew out of MGM and didn't hit up that coffee shop once you got through security? Before you, Every time.
I do. It kind of depends, Barry, what time of day I am departing from MGM. So if I am departing before 12 noon, I'm definitely hitting the Dunkin' Donuts location, no doubt. If it's post 12 noon, usually I'm hitting runway 28 to get a sponsor product. Which is a Bud Light.
Nice. Oh, yeah.
And I went to D.C. last week and went over there before our flight left, which it departs around 6 p.m. Went and got a Bud Light and just, walked and went to the gate area and enjoyed it before takeoff. So, yeah, there's so many great options for you to choose from here. It's very convenient, very comfortable, highly recommended for ease of travel that starts here at MGM. All right, Barry, earlier in the week, we talked about the USA-Canada hockey game that, a fight broke out when the puck dropped. I understand game 2 between these two teams is tonight in Boston. So they're coming back across the border to play game 2 tonight in the United States. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, first of all, I've got to say this about the accounting yesterday of the first game, which was earlier this week. Evidently, the Canadians booed the national anthem, the United States national anthem. They booed that because they don't like all this talk about making Canada the 51st state and all that. So they booed the anthem. They've done that before since the administration changed. But somebody on here, I don't know if it was John, I really don't, or maybe it was one of our viewers and listeners who said that they have, 3 fights in the first 9 minutes. You mentioned that, right? 3 fights, first 9 minutes. And somebody said, it wasn't me, said that the Americans won all 3 of those fights. We were 3-0 against Canada in the fight.
Yeah, I did not hear that.
I got tons of it was on the chat line, and I think I may have read it. They point out that it was JD, our buddy, 2-time caller of the year, JD, who said that the Americans beat him in all 3 fights. Somebody pointed out there were actually 4 fights. One of my Canadian friends, a great Canadian friend. Yep. And said the United States went 1-3. Canada won the first. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 and 2. There were 3 fights. Canada won the first and the third fight. They got the opponent's helmet off first, landed more punches, and got the other guy to the ice first. Even though in the third fight they didn't end up on the ice, the American guy still hit his knees a couple of times before getting all the way up. So, the account from one of the judges, JD, says it was, his scorecard has it 3-0 Americans. My Canadian friends, their scorecard had it 1-3 in favor of the Canadian side. So, it's a split card right now, and it'll go to the judges. So we'll go to the third and final judge.
It sounds like there was some partiality there, depending on what side of the border you lived on. But nonetheless, I like the fact that as soon as the puck dropped, the gloves came off, and it's like, we ain't taking this. I wonder what happens tonight. Now,
it'll be intense, they say.
Yeah, when the Canadian national anthem is played, I mean, I'd like to say, come on, act right. Don't do what the Canadians did. Don't boo. But we know that's not going to happen. I mean, these Bostonians are going to get beard up, liquored up. I mean, they cannot wait to start booing when the Canadian national anthem is played. So, do the Canadians maybe, I don't know, just blow it off and just let's go play hockey, or do they want to fight too? It'll be interesting. I guess what I'd really like to see is maybe a hard check up against the glass and then a fight starts. That's usually how a fight starts. But just to drop your gloves from the get-go, we've done that. Let's move on. But if a fight breaks out, so be it. It is hockey, I guess.
Yeah. Now, again, my Canadian friend, I'm sorry, this person says it was basically Canada 2, United States 1. JD was wrong. I mean, that's what this person said. JD said, JD on the chat line, he's getting a little bit loose here. He says, the Canadians fight like punks. Go choke on some Tim Hortons. Our buddy John Dent said America kicked all the way around. So, now,
you know what, JD?
This is what's odd is, I mean, this is a big deal. It's 7:00 tonight. It's ESPN. It's in Boston. John mentioned that. It's the Four Nations Face-Off Championship. And there's a quote from an American player named Jack Eichel, who said, it's the biggest game I've played in quite some time, maybe ever. Jack Eichel won the Stanley Cup with Vegas 2 years ago. So, these are
NHL players. Yeah. So, John, JD, look, I'm on your guys' side. Whoever these Canadians are in our chat line, I'm not buying into what you're selling. I'm selling that the Americans won all 3 fights in that game.
Decisively, according to John. The referees had to come in and they were thinking about, putting him in concussion protocol and bringing a gurney out and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, when we come back.
Man, I love it. Love it.
Jason Caldwell in just a moment. We got this chat from JD, two-time caller of the year,
Yep.
JD. He says, I believe Jason Caldwell was the color guy on the Auburn radio broadcast, ESPN broadcast of ESPN Plus broadcast of Auburn versus North Alabama last night, along with Brad Law. That is true. He also said he did a great job. That is also true. We'll talk with Jason Caldwell, AuburnUndercover.com, when Longshore and McKnight continues from the Montgomery Regional Airport, presented by Bud Light.
Well, the Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers are really hot in college basketball, and so are the deals at Stivers Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Prattville. Alabama and Northwest Florida's largest volume Ram truck dealer is Stivers in Prattville. And at Stivers, they have the largest selection of Ram trucks priced at thousands less than other dealers. How about a 2025 Ram Bighorn 4x4 crew cab with savings of up to $15,000 off sticker price? Also at Stivers Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, they have fantastic savings on the entire Jeep lineup, like the Wranglers and Jeep Grand Cherokees. Head over to Stivers Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram today on Cobbs Ford Road in Prattville, where Price sells cars and trucks.
Introducing Budweiser Zero. 0% alcohol, 0 grams of sugar. Full Budweiser flavor. A refreshing alcohol-free brew that tastes like the real thing. Budweiser Zero. 0 alcohol, 0 compromise.
Dixie Electric Plumbing and Air rallies for you. No matter the problem, Dixie will tackle it. Their licensed and trusted electricians, plumbers, air and garage door technicians are ready to win for you. From toilets to garbage disposals, circuit breakers to HVAC systems, Dixie never fumbles. Don't throw away your hard-earned money on second-string contracting companies. Score big with Dixie. After all, they are your biggest fan. Visit calldixie.com or dial them up locally at 262-2946.
Now, as we come back here on Longshore and McKnight, is our man Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, joins us each and every week. Jason, good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Morning, guys. How are y'all?
Doing really well. I didn't get a chance to catch the end last night of Auburn versus North Alabama in baseball. You were there calling the game. How did it turn out? What did you learn about the last two games?
Yeah, just it's like any sport. Right now it's a grind, and you're trying to mix newcomers and young guys. And I think probably the biggest thing is last night a true freshman, Andres Alvarez, and I thought he was really good. Pitching and in a starting role and. Came up with some big hits late. Chris Rembert homered, a true freshman. Bub Terrell had a big double, a true freshman. So the young guys are making an impact already, and so that's probably the biggest thing is trying to kind of get everybody situated and timing offensively probably for this team. But hey, you just kind of have to feel your way out early in the season sometimes.
Across the way at Neville Arena, Auburn. I wasn't sure that they would be able to replicate, the energy that they had in Tuscaloosa. That's hard to do. But kind of a workmanlike 67-60 win over Arkansas last night in men's basketball, Jason. Is that a fair adjective?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, Arkansas is that's a team in a dangerous team. We were talking about this yesterday. Arkansas, and then you think about like a Kansas, a UConn, some teams that you might look up and go, man, they haven't played well all season, but you don't want to draw that team early in an NCAA tournament because there's still talent. And that's the same thing with this Arkansas team. There's still enough talent to scare you, and they'll defend and they'll get after you. And so I thought they did those things. And for Auburn, I mean, did not shoot it very well at all. And, Arkansas didn't either, but, some of that's Auburn's defense. But Auburn didn't shoot it well and found a way to win. And I think that's the biggest thing right now. You look, especially coming off of Saturday, I think we saw both teams last night for different reasons struggle. Auburn was shooting the basketball. Their defense had been better for a lot of this season and was horrific last night. And I think that's some of the after effects of playing that type of game last Saturday. And that's part of the reason why it's so difficult in this league, because you have those situations where you come back and you go, well, you got another one of those. You got another one of those. I mean, it's a never-ending thing.
Yeah, it is a never-ending thing, and you're right, Jason. I think defense was certainly lacking in the Crimson Tide's game last night. And you know, Barry and I have been talking about the stretch run here in the regular season. Really like where Auburn is positioned for the remainder of this regular season. You know, certainly they're going to be favorites in every game. And you know, we mentioned it yesterday. I'm not sure they're going to be an underdog in any game here on out, unless it's against Duke in the championship game in April. I'm not sure that would be the case either. So I guess just getting through the regular season, getting to Nashville, I guess that's kind of the, you know, we just don't want to do anything, trip ourselves up, do anything stupid.
Yeah, you know, I think you look and you would assume the next two, Georgia and Ole Miss at home, that you would feel pretty good about those. And you got to play better. And that's the thing is, you know, they haven't gone out and just whitewashed anyone in a while, because I think, and people are wondering, well, is that a cause of concern? I think that's just life as a number one team. And that's the difference in playing with that target on your chest. It's a different mentality. It's a different pressure that comes along with it. This team has handled it well, but it's hard to go run away from folks because they know what's on the line. Arkansas last night, they go, look, if we win this game, this might push us over the top. Georgia's going to come in with the same thing, going, look, if we win this game, it changes everything that we've done for the past month. And then Ole Miss a little different. They're probably solidly in, but they still could use one like that. So that's the difficulty of it. But you look at it, going to Texas A&M, going to Kentucky, and then Alabama at home, that's a tough trio to finish the season. It's not Alabama's schedule the next, week, 2.5 weeks or whatever, but that last three will challenge you. And if you're Auburn right now, you got a 2-game lead in the league, but Florida and Alabama play each other, so one of them is going to get a fourth loss.
Right.
Just a matter of how you can finish out yourself.
Jason, I've got 2 factors I want to ask you, and you just tell me your opinion, whether you think they're important factors or not. One of them is, you mentioned, Auburn's playing close games lately. Well, every team out there has got every bit of film on Auburn you could possibly want. Once you get to this point of the season, there are no real surprises about anything involving any of these teams in the league. Do you think that's a factor?
I do. I think it makes it more difficult at times, and I think that's when players take over. I think, obviously coaching can impact it, and when you do something is an impact, but I think then it becomes a player game a lot, where you depend on your older guys, and that's why you see veteran teams make runs and win championships, because then it becomes, okay, what do we do the best? Janai Broom's still a matchup issue, and passing the ball, sharing the basketball, that's still the key for this team, because it's so hard to double him because he can pass it. If you make the shots, then all of a sudden you become a really, really difficult team to defend.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you, if you think it's a factor, I thought a great stat yesterday that Auburn's 5 starters average 23 years of age. The average age of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who lead the Western Conference, is 24 years of age. Baker Mazara is 25, Denver Jones is 24, Caldwell's 23, Broom and Kelly are 22. Do you think that age is a big factor?
Yeah, 100% it is. We talked about baseball earlier. I talked to baseball coaches, and they're like, how do you get old on the mound? When you're asking an 18-year-old pitcher to get a 22-year-old hitter out, it becomes really difficult. It's the same thing in basketball, especially the closer you get to the basket. the closer you get to the basket, the more difficult it is for young guys because of the physicality, the maturity. I mean, a 22, 23, 24-year-old is a grown man. In 18, you're still kind of learning your way. It's why you see now more success for transfer big men than you do even high-level recruits because of the fact that there's so much of that. So I think the closer you get to the basket, the older you are, the better off you are.
Does that play in football as well? Is that one of
Jason
the things
Caldwell
that you Freeze is looking at? Because I would rather have a Jackson Arnold who's been in college for a couple of years at quarterback, as opposed to depending on a true freshman or a redshirt freshman to start and figuring it all out at once. Maybe they develop, but if they develop, maybe they move on and everything. That's a factor in football and everything, right?
I think the more experience you can add at anywhere right now in football too, the better off you are. You look and I think it's why you have to continue to recruit to try to develop and keep those guys, but you add experience in key spots. And I think that, what we saw at Ohio State, we've seen at other spots. Yeah. I think that's a valuable part of
it. Jason, in football news, we've been talking a lot about this. The Big Ten and the SEC seem to want to do something on their own. They're kind of, playing the big boy role. We've heard some things about the conference going to a 9-game regular season schedule, a matchup with Big Ten teams every year, guaranteed spots in the playoff, maybe some restructuring of conference championship weekend. Your thoughts about that and the future of college football?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a power play a little bit right now going on where you're like, hey, we're going to do something. We don't know what it is, but hey, here's what we could do. And I think the one thing that's coming, and nobody said it, I think it's going to be hard to do because I think it's going to be difficult for the Southeastern Conference to go, yeah, we'll give that up. But I just don't see how and why an SEC football championship game is going to last much longer in this day and age. I don't understand. I don't know how, because we saw it last year. I mean, both teams are going to be in the playoffs. They're already in. Why does it matter? Why would you play it only to lose your quarterback and really kill yourself any chances of making it? We're basically already there. We've seen the SEC basketball tournament in recent years mean nothing to the winner. I mean, Auburn has won it twice in the past 4 years, and it's remained a 5 seed, the same line they were on when they went into the tournament. If I'm Auburn this year and I win the regular season and they tell me I'm a 1 seed, I don't know that I'm playing anybody. And going, okay, we're going to get healthy, especially Janai Broome. And so, I think the football is headed the same way. 9-game schedule, I don't know. There's a whole lot that has to get ironed out, and they can talk about all those things they want to. The most important thing right now still is figuring out what to do with NIL and transfer portal and all those things and how that's going to work. The other stuff is going to figure itself out, in my opinion. You got to figure out now what the game is like before you figure out where it's headed.
Jason, I know you covered this really well. Your guy, Christian Clemente, over at Auburn Undercover, is all over recruiting. Is it fair to say right now in the recruiting trail, it's basically setting official visits for I guess June and beyond, and what to look for there from Auburn, if that is the case?
That's a lot of it, and we're talking about even a couple around spring in spring game in April. You'll have some in end of May, June. It has changed so dramatically in the last 5 years, and now and the other part of it is because of NIL and because of portal and all those things. It's really hard to get people to understand, well, this is still a big deal because as many people don't care anymore because they're going, well, I mean, it's June, you're taking official visits in April, May, guys not signing till December. It feels a little bit like basketball, where basketball, you go, hey, you got an early signing period. Well, the guy's still a year and a half away. He's still a long way before that guy ever gets on campus. It's starting to feel that way a little bit for football, where they're going, well, man, this guy's taking an official visit. He won't even play for a year and a half. That's made it really different. And so trying to figure out different ways to kind of pass it across this new age. It's a brave new world, and it's not changing anytime soon. But hopefully, somebody can get a hand on a way to make this a better situation, because the product on the field is still good. The product off the field is not in a good spot right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to put it. I mean, yeah, because I think the product on the field, the athleticism, just how fast these guys are compared to 10, 20 years ago is definitely noticeable. But that's a great way to put it, Jason. What's going on off the field is something we've never experienced, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty, not only with the fan base, but I think with the administration and the coaches and the athletic directors as well.
Yeah, it's everybody involved. They don't know what's next. They're trying to figure it out and stay ahead of it. But there's so much uncertainty. We've talked about this the last couple of weeks, but I mean, you still have sports that don't know what their roster size is going to be the next year. You're trying to recruit. You're trying to recruit in sports where, I mean, you know, we're talking about baseball and softball. You don't have full scholarship limits. You may have them next year, but you don't know.
May not.
How can you offer and go, hey, let's recruit this player when you don't know? Well, in baseball, do you have to pay $25,000 a year, or is it going to be all taken care of? Well, that's the difference between getting a guy in school or not. And those are things that still are unknown. And it's amazing that we're still sitting here. I mean, it's you know, almost the end of February, and this calendar athletic year will be over with in 3 months or so. And then it's go time for the next year. And we still don't know what's going to happen.
So what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that somebody like John Cohen, he's having to plan for maybe 2 or 3 different possibilities about how this thing may go, like with a house settlement. He's spending a lot of time trying to get contingency plans, and a lot of it's going to be wasted time because it can only go one way, you know, right?
I think from a sport perspective, you know, we're talking about baseball, you think about Butch Thompson, you go, okay, do we have 34 or we're going to have 20? Is it somewhere in between? So you know you got maybe this window to potential for full offer guys for baseball. After that, you're going, hey, we might have a full scholarship offer. We want you to come. We're not really sure yet. From an athletic department perspective, you have to know what is the floor and the ceiling. That's kind of that's it right now. Your floor and your ceiling, and then you figure it out in between. It's a really, really difficult spot.
Jason Caldwell, Auburn.
So Auburn,
go ahead.
Georgia coming to town on Saturday afternoon. Jason, should be another great crowd. Should be another great game there at Neville Arena.
Yeah, another talented roster that has shown at times they can go out and compete, and you'll face another first-round NBA guy. Had one of those probably last night at Arkansas. That's the thing you look at now. Is like on any given night, you're going to face a player that is playing on the next level. And so that always creates a challenge. Georgia is scuffling. They haven't played well in a while. And so for Auburn, it'd be another important game to go out and get started early and see if this team can go out and finish one and then be able to take a deep breath before, 5 seconds on the clock. That makes every game really tough.
Jason, tell us how people can get involved with AuburnUndercover.com if they're Auburn fans or not, and for some reason have not subscribed. How do they get that process started? Yeah,
check us out. Like I said, AuburnUndercover.com, part of the 24/7 network. Tons of things going on. Nathan King locked and loaded on basketball. Obviously, we got baseball, softball, recruiting, everything in between. So come check us out there. YouTube page or videos, post game, all that stuff you can check out as well.
And you're still at ITAT Jason on Twitter?
Jason, as always, thank you so much.
Yep, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. There you go.
Hey, thank you, too, buddy. Appreciate that. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, joining us here as he does each and every Thursday with Longshore and McKnight. We greatly appreciate it. A lot of good insight there as well. baseball, basketball, football recruiting as well. And we always appreciate Jason's time. And we'll do it with Rodney Insider at the top of the next hour.
Well, I got to tell you, John, I sneaked a peek at the TiderInsider.com message boards. All those basketball fans. I don't agree with you, but it looks like a majority of the Bama Nation does. We're going to talk with Rodney about that in just a moment. We are live at the Montgomery Regional Airport, Longshore and McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, Longshore and McKnight continues, presented by Bud Light.
Phoenix Physical Therapy is ready to help patients recover, recharge, and rise. They develop a customized therapy plan for each patient to get them back to enjoying their favorite activities. Their experienced team is committed to providing exceptional care in a professional environment. Whether you're looking to prevent or treat an injury, recover from a recent illness, or recuperate from surgery, schedule an appointment with our clinic and take advantage of our physical therapy, athletic training, workers' comp, and employer solutions service. Experience elevated physical therapy today. Call Phoenix Physical Therapy at 239-9316. That's 239-9316.
Why Hands? At Hands Heating and Air, you get this area's highest ranked service provider with 24-hour repair service, no overtime charges, and their same-day service guarantee. Plus, instead of other companies' 30-day repair warranty, Hands gives you a 3-year repair warranty. Hands Heating and Air is here for you 24/7, 365. And service is not just something they do, it's their way of operating, for you in mind. All of Hands employees are trained to adhere to this standard. They work hard to ensure that this standard is maintained, and they are constantly looking for new ways to better serve you. Call Hands Heating and Air today at 508-5382. That's 508-5382, or find them on the web at 834hands.com.
Okay, welcome back in, everybody. A couple of minutes until the top of the hour here. Longshore and McKnight live from the Montgomery Regional Airport, getting better the more you use it. I want to just hit something square dead on right here, right now. And
Since
we
when
get
do you
some
not?
comments in our chat line. Yeah, true. And I'm not going to get back on Alabama basketball just yet, but I'm just give me 30 seconds. It's too expensive to fly from Montgomery. I hear that all the time. I don't see that. And I fly out of Montgomery regularly. I'm not going to endure that long drive on 85 and get stuck in a traffic jam or a construction zone and then have to park in a remote lot 4 miles from the terminal and get on some shuttle van that the driver is not going to assist you with your luggage, drop you off literally at curbside. You got to check in. Then you got to go through a long TSA line, get on a subway train to go to your terminal. You know the whole deal. And then you got to come back and repeat that whole process when you're dead tired and endure those traffic jams and delays again as you're trying to come home. You know, if you just do a little research, you can find some very competitive and economical flights out of MGM. Believe you me, if you've heard Barry, I don't like opening up my wallet. And I certainly don't like to do it when I'm having to travel, but I do get that I do have to pay something to get out of town from time to time. It's the ease and the convenience and just, knowing that, I don't have to be all stressed out and worried about, well, am I going to make it on time? With a delay, if I got to go through a TSA line, people get in this money and then they go through that process and then they realize this sucks. Why did I do this and get up at 3 a.m. to catch a flight that I could have gone to MGM and been relaxed, not in a rush, comfortable? Isn't that what it's all about?
Especially coming back. I mean, you're sitting there in a traffic jam in LaGrange, Georgia, thinking, this I could have listened to Longshore and McKnight. If I had just listened to John and Barry, I'd be home by now instead of just trying to get to the West Point exit so I can use the bathroom at the welcome station. I mean,
here's my response to that. If you want to be stressed out, if you want to have an flying experience, Spirit or Frontier or Southwest, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, I've never flown those airlines, but I've heard the stories. And if that's the way you want to go, knock yourself out. Go for it. But smart travelers come from MGM. They start in their travels right here.
Tobias makes a great point on the chat line, John. He say, I paid a little over $400 to fly to Montgomery for Thanksgiving. I love it because I can spend the day with my family instead of leaving 5 hours before my flight out of Atlanta. That's a great point. And John Dent says a friend who flies a good bit out of Atlanta prefers that he flies through Montgomery first, hands down. So,
yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, so you mentioned that TiderInsider is flaming out. Everybody's, got the torches out. They got those little emojis with the burning and all that kind of stuff. So is anybody on TI saying anything different from what I said earlier on the program today?
You want me to go through a couple of those? And again, one of my favorite parts about TiderInsider.com are the usernames. Like this one. This one, it's very recent in there. He says, on defense, I'm seeing what is so frustrating is I don't see an area where we are getting better as the season plays out. That is from I Wax the Dude. Nice. I Wax the Dude. Enos Watley says the biggest fallacy of Oates' brand of basketball is that we live and die by the three. Well, it's a three-pointer and the layup or the dunk. That's from Enos Watley. Old Dog, Bama 73, my cousin Vinny. Bama 73 said, what did y'all think of Missouri's coach telling the fans not to rush the court? I Waxed the Dude says he called a timeout to do it. Smart. Now, I got to admit, I wasn't watching it by that point, and I doubt John was as well. Taking a timeout in the last couple of minutes when you're up double digits to tell the crowd. How do you think that made Alabama's players feel, John? When you take a timeout and say, all right, everybody, when we win, let's not storm the court, okay? Let's save the $500,000.
Yeah, that's kind of... Well, Barry, I'll say this. It is a little unusual and maybe rub salt in the wounds to the opposing team, the visiting team, but you don't want them to do it. I get it. Listen, stay in the stands. I don't like it. I don't like that you've got to tell your fan base not to do something. And what's the big deal? I mean, it's just the number 4 team in the country. And are they really the number 4 team in the country? I wonder about that, but it's a tough situation. I mean, I don't think Nate Oates had a problem with it. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe he did.
It's that
I just had a problem with the way they were playing.
Or not playing. The defense.
That's my problem.
The defense is a big problem.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So check it out, TiderInsider.com. We'll
I don't think yeah. I'm just thinking, Barry, that there again, TiderInsider, some people on that message board just feel like I do, or they came away with the same impression, the same feeling about the way Alabama played last night. And we touched on it yesterday. This is a very difficult of games that Alabama's got to play to wrap up the regular season. I don't think anybody believed that they were going to win them all.
No,
but
no.
Barry, I don't think anybody was expecting that. Once again, you're watching the game, boom, they're down 9-0. Same thing happened. And the next thing you know, they're down big at halftime. They give up 110 points in the game, 59 in the first half. I don't think anybody was expecting to see that. Maybe they didn't expect them to win, but they didn't expect to see them lose in that fashion.
And Sears ended up with 35 in 35 minutes. He played a ton and he scored a ton. He had 5 assists, so I'm not necessarily sure of the tone of the game. Was it the point when you give up 59 in the first half? The score was like 59-46 at halftime. You're down 13 and you scored 59. Was there maybe a subtle undertone in the Alabama locker room that, man, we ain't winning this game. We ain't defending. I'm getting mine. I am getting mine. I don't know what else happens. We may win. We may lose. We're not guarding anybody worth bleep, but I'm getting my numbers. Possibly.
Barry, I was surprised when you told me Mark Sears had 35 points.
Yeah.
I wasn't sitting there checking it off as the game was being played. Okay, Mark's got so many points.
Right.
I guess I was looking at other aspects of the game about, crappy defense, all this other stuff, Missouri making threes. I just, when you told me, what? I mean, that kind of surprised me.
Is that indicative of the mindset, of his mindset down the stretch? Missouri didn't open up 9. Well, they did open up 9-0 on Alabama to start. But they actually scored the first 12 points of the game. Oates had to call a timeout 2.5 minutes in. Sears late in the first half was called for a flagrant foul for grabbing the guard, the ball handler from behind. He was called for a flagrant foul. Oates slammed his clipboard to the floor. That came with 5:28 remaining in the first half. Didn't seem to fire anybody up, make any difference at all. That is the first time Missouri has scored at least 100 points in a conference game in 16 years. Just to give you some context, John, just to let you know how rare that is. 16 years. So that's where it stands as of right now. And the Crimson Tide has another tough one coming up. They host Kentucky on Saturday night, and places should be packed. Fans don't give up on them.
It should be,
but it's a difficult stretch. I mean, there's no way around it. You've said that before. It's
game. I don't know. Get it? I just don't get the feel. And there again, it's not like we've come on this program and blown away. Can you believe how great Alabama looked last night? And I thought about that the game last night. I'm thinking, I've been feeling this way all year. I mean, this team doesn't blow me away. And maybe it's some of these lapses that I've seen throughout the season. Hadn't been many, but the ones that I've seen, I've kind of gone, man, that doesn't look championship level. Hey, joining us now, as he does each and every Thursday, Rodney Orr, the Tider, our friends at the Destin Connection Seafood Market. And my man David Scott over at Destin Connection says, man, they have got plenty of great crawfish at the Destin Connection, both spicy boiled and live crawfish. And he wants all the listeners and, of course, Insider to know that, hey, if you're looking for crawfish, the Destin Connection has the freshest available anywhere in the state of Alabama. So go by and see him at 3750 Norman Bridge Road, the Destin Connection Seafood Market.
Rodney, good morning. Welcome into the show. How
Hey,
are
Rodney, good morning. How you doing today?
Doing great, guys. How are the both of you?
you? Doing really well. We were remarking about the activity and the tone on the TiderInsider.com message board after Alabama loses by 12, gives up 110 points to Missouri on the road last night. Those people, the subscribers that you have a certain zest for living sometimes, Rodney.
Yeah. I mean, it's all come crashing down. And they're first of all, I don't think they got over the Auburn game last Saturday, and then it kind of carried over into to last night, obviously, and it was a bad performance. I mean, what Missouri jump out 12 zip,
Yes,
and then just kind of dominated the game, kind of like Auburn did actually, and it just like you said. I mean, defensively, Alabama's just been a mess, and Missouri, as you mentioned, 110 points. I mean, that's almost unfathomable. I mean, you scored 98. You scored 98 points, and you lose. If I would have told you yesterday that Alabama's going to score 98 points tonight, how much would you have bet they would have won?
And not only 98, but they lose by double digits.
I know,
It scored
that's
98.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can see why Nate Oates was a little unhappy when that grease board hit the floor last night. I certainly understand that. And the road doesn't get any easier, Rodney. We talked about it even before this Missouri game. Alabama's remaining regular season, everybody they play is ranked.
Yeah, they are. Obviously you got Kentucky, you got Mississippi State, you got Florida, you got Auburn. I think you mentioned Kentucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a rough stretch here, at the end. Every team, like you said, is ranked. These last 6 teams were ranked, when you include Missouri. So we're going to find out a lot about, and I've said this throughout the year, when they bounce back after the Ole Miss performance, and they showed a lot of mental toughness in some of these games on the road against some really good teams, whether it's Texas A&M or up at Rupp or wherever it was. I've talked about this team, in spite of facing some adversity, has really shown some mental toughness. Well, we're going to find out right now just where they stand. And, you talk about Nate Oates' reaction last night with the clipboard. As I think about that, John and Barry, I think it's deeper than the moment. And what I mean by that, I don't think it was just a snap reaction to something he saw at that moment. This is something that's been building.
Yep.
That's what that reaction was. That was a really strong act of frustration. And it tells me that his message in some ways not getting across to the way he wants it to be received. That's what it tells me. Because I don't think Nate Oates we've watched him over the last 6 years. I don't think we've seen him, in a spur of the moment, just for whatever, something that happened, for him to respond that way.
Let this sink in. This is pretty remarkable. Alabama scored 184 points in their last 2 games, never led in either one of them. And they spotted the opposition 21. It was 21-0 in the last 2 games to start both of those games. You combine the 2 starts against Missouri and Auburn. And I'm with you, Rodney. I think it isn't sinking in. And I don't know, maybe if it's just, having older guys that have maybe been through this enough and they've heard it before and maybe doing their own thing, or maybe some of these younger guys aren't buying into it. But I get exactly what you're saying. It's almost like either it's not sinking in, or these guys going in one ear right out the other, that they've just, I've heard this enough, and, it's just not registering anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's what his reaction last night, and, it just struck me that, this isn't something that is just a spur of the moment reaction, knee jerk reaction. This is something that's building, has been building, he sees the message isn't being received like he wants it. So, we're going to see. He's had moments. Obviously, all basketball teams go through ups and downs over the course of the season. You guys know that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good, there's bad, and there's tough bumps in the road. They had that last year at the end of the season. You remember, they were knocked out of the SEC tourney early, and then they go on the run in the NCAA. So he's Nate Oates has a way of bringing the team back around. This team's extraordinarily talented. We've seen it, and we've seen a lot of mental toughness from them throughout the course of the season. It's just right now, for whatever reason or reasons, they're not playing extremely well. And this is a really tough league. And if you're not playing at your best, you're going to be exposed.
Rodney Orr is with us, TiderInsider.com, brought to you by the Destin Connection Seafood Market. We have a very strong group of viewers and subscribers and live chatters as well. We've gotten one of the last couple of days by a really good an active viewer named Shaker Jack, and he is wondering what for the last couple of days, Rodney, what is the deal with Alabama and the recruitment of a kid out of Alexander City named Cedarian Morgan?
He's a great player. He's a 5-star receiver, according to some people. He's got tremendous height. I think he's close to 6'4". And Alabama's right in the mix with him. I know that Auburn's very strongly in there as well. And, he's being recruited by several of the national powers for sure. He's a guy that's maybe the number 1 player in the state, certainly a top 2. Some maybe have top 3, but he's elite is the phrase they use now, the word they like to use. We'll see what happens with him. There's some people that think Alabama, some people Auburn. It's going to be one of those things that, to me, I do think he stays in the state ultimately. But as you guys know, recruiting has completely changed in so many ways with this NIL, and it's difficult to predict. We're sitting here in February, and we're talking about a kid that's going to sign in December. Right. So it's going to be really difficult to predict this early exactly what's going to happen. A lot of things could change, but I like Alabama's chances, certainly.
Is this an NIL situation? I mean, it seems like that's a stupid question because it seems like NIL seems to be involved with just about every recruit these days.
Yeah, and again, I'm specifically, I can't speak to what his exact criteria are, but as you guys know, NIL is a factor in just about every recruitment.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of it now. Okay, what's my NIL package? It's not about NFL anymore. It's about NIL. And we used to hear. I remember you guys for years asked me what was the number one thing prospects would say when I would speak to them about Alabama, Nick Saban. It's the NFL factor. So it's now the NIL factor, and I think that I can't speak to Cedarian Morgan, but I'm sure it's something that will be a factor.
Well, can you speak about this? Because, again, Shaker Jack poses this question. He says, what is up with Alabama's D-line recruiting? We signed 2 3-stars last year and have no one committed this year. He says somebody insinuated that it's a Freddie Roach problem. Can you offer insight there, Rodney?
Well, first of all, there's defensive linemen. There's 2 ways to look at it. Number one is the big time players that everybody wants: Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, the ones Alabama used to get. A lot of them, they're hard to get. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's a real challenge. You mentioned NIL. Some of these NIL deals you look at Justice Terry, for example. Let me just use him from last year. 5-star defensive lineman out of the state of Georgia. He flirted with a lot of schools, but ultimately everyone thought Kirby Smart was going to lock him up, right? Well, at the last minute, he picks Texas. And he has since come out and said it was strictly an NIL deal. They offered me the best NIL deal. So these things are tough, even for Georgia, which is a recruited defensive lineman on an elite level. But there's also the fact that you can get really good players. And I'm going to give you another example just to kind of, show you what I'm talking about. Take Quinnen Williams, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a good, solid prospect in terms of the rankings, but you could see you've got to be able to spot talent and evaluate it and then get it here and develop it. And, Quinnen Williams is a guy that Dalvin Tomlinson was a guy that they got here and they developed. So there's a lot of factors involved. So I don't want to say that a guy like London Simmons, who's one of the ones, Cactus Jack, or what'd you say, Shaker Jack?
Yeah, Shaker Jack, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to say that London Simmons isn't a talented kid. He is. He probably just needs some development. And Alabama does need to sign more defensive linemen, in my opinion. I think that they missed out on some this past year. I think that it certainly has to be a top priority in this class here.
Rodney, somebody asked about Kelby Collins that came out of the portal, a defensive lineman from Florida.
Yeah, originally from Gardendale, came out a few years ago, same year Peter Woods came out, if you remember.
From Clemson,
Yeah, he picked, obviously picked Florida out of high school after having been an Alabama fan, grown up an Alabama fan, spent 2 years there at Florida, had a pretty good freshman year, true freshman. I think he made 23 tackles that year. And then last year, he didn't have as good a year. I think he only had like 6 tackles. I'm not sure exactly what was different last year for him, but he's got a lot of potential. I mean, when you look at him physically, 6'4", 6'5", 280 pounds. I mean, you look at him on the hoof and you say, this guy's got it. But I think the thing, John Barry, again, development, I think the thing is you got to get it out of him every single play. But he certainly should be helpful to this defensive line.
Man, they're coming in today. But when Rodney comes on, getting all these texts asking him about this guy. It's presented this way, so work with me, Rodney. The stud from Canada, whose last name is Luma.
Steve M. We call him Steve M. Okay, so he signed with Alabama, not in this past class, not in the 2025 class, but 2024.
Yeah.
And anyway, he ended up having to go to JUCO, and he went down to Mississippi. He's now coming to Alabama, and very raw. I mean, you look at him athletically. He's very impressive athletically, but also very raw, a lot to learn. Maybe the 1 year in JUCO helped him out some. I think he's gone from like 265 pounds to like 310 in the last, 12 to 18 months. And he's a guy that with his athleticism and that size, he could be now see, that's a guy right there when you're talking about elite defensive lineman. He's got size, he's got great athleticism. Now can you develop him? That's the key. And you know what? You could see him blossom into a 5-star type contributor. Now, I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying you're talking about the tools to do it.
But then again, I mean, that's can be a two-edged sword because you spend some time developing somebody, pouring resources and time into him, and he's coming along nicely, and then the next year he's gone to the portal.
Well, it happens. There was a kid they were bragging about, Isaiah Hastings. He was another kid from Canada, and he didn't stay. He stayed a year, and they were thinking eventually he was going to be a guy, and boom, he was gone. So you're right. I mean, it's unpredictable, and that's why I tell certainly on TiderInsider, I make sure the people understand. Look, this recruiting, you got to be careful. You can't right now. You can't put too much stock in it.
Rodney is sponsored each week by our friends at the Destin Connection Seafood Market, which is your crawfish destination for both spicy boiled and live crawfish. The Destin Connection Seafood Market, 3750 Norman Bridge Road, 288-4272. Call ahead. Your order will be ready for pickup. All right, Rodney, one of the things I wanted to ask you, Barry asked you about Cedarian Morgan. That was on my list. We've had some people ask us about it this week. But what about recruiting in-state overall? We get a lot of people seem to hit the panic button, if you will, when it comes to in-state recruiting? I know we've talked about it in the past. I've always been one of these guys with, I don't care where you're from. If you got the best player, it doesn't matter. But some people put a lot of stock in maybe dominating in-state. They're getting a little itchy because Hugh Freeze seems to be doing a better job in-state at this point in time. What's the story with in-state recruiting?
Well, I think, given the relationships that Auburn already had and coming in from the West Coast as, DeBoer and Courtney Morgan did, it took a little while in-state. I do think that they're prioritizing several in-state kids this year. Want to, try to make that happen. But Tank Jones, Anthony Jones out of St. Paul's, it may be an Alabama-Auburn deal. He could be the number one player, he or Cedarian Morgan in the state. He's an edge player. Like I said, Cedarian's a really talented kid. Then you've got Zion Gibson out of Gadsden City. He's a top 5 player in the state. He's already committed as a cornerback. E.J. Crowell, Xavier Crowell from Jackson, Alabama, is one of the top 5 running backs in the country. He was actually the number 1 running back in the 2027 class before he reclassified to this one. And he's a guy that Alabama's in great shape with. Florida State's in there, Auburn's in there, Georgia's in there, really competitive. So Alabama's working him extremely hard. They're working several other players. Emmanuel Ruffin's a defensive lineman that they're in on from Bessemer City. And there are various others across the state. A few defensive linemen and edge players that they're in on. So I think they're certainly prioritizing the state. And probably, again, this probably doesn't sound right, but because I don't want to say they're necessarily prioritizing the state more this year. It's just that they've had time to kind of understand the lay of the land a little better.
That makes sense. Yeah, I get that.
That's valid. Yeah.
Barry, we're going to have a cutoff every week of how many texts we can take for questions for Rodney. I love it. We're getting blown.
He loves to.
More.
All right. Okay.
Somebody wants to know about the transfer wide receiver, Rodney, from Miami, Isaiah Horton. They say he's turning some heads up there.
Yes, he is. He caught 56 balls last year at Miami, over 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. Here's what he does, John and Barry. He's big. He's 6'4". All right, so think about Jeremy Bernard, who's a good-sized kid, but not 6'4". Then you got Ryan Williams, and you bring in a guy with the kind of experience that Isaiah Horton has, 6'4", 205, really productive. I think he's going to make a big impact this year in this receiver core. And I think, right now, when you look at Rico Scott's another one, while we're talking about receivers, I would watch him. Last year's a freshman. He only played in 4 games. But remember, he had a couple of really impressive catches. He had the longest run from scrimmage against Michigan on the reverse, 28 yards. He's a physical kid. I like Rico Scott. Hopefully Jalen Hale, I hear he's getting better and better with that injury that he had. So that's encouraging. He's an extremely talented kid, Cole Adams. And I think a couple of the freshmen, Derek Meadows out of Las Vegas, 6'6" almost, and can fly. I think he's, remember that name. Just remember the name Derek Meadows. Latsier Brooks is another one. So I'm looking to see, let me phrase it this way. I'm expecting Jamarcus Shepard, as good of a coach as he is, he's really going to have these wide receivers coached up this year, I think.
I love it when Rodney tells us, to keep this guy in mind, remember this guy, because they always pay off when Rodney gives us that guy.
I'm not going to give it away, Rodney, but you mentioned Jamarcus Shepard. He is featured prominently in the first installment of the Tides That Bind on Fox Nation. Woo! He is giving those wide receivers hell.
Well, I tell you how good he is in terms of motivating kids. I've literally seen videos from practice of a coach, at least one coach at another position that I won't mention, going up to him and saying, "Hey, could you motivate my guy? Could you go over there and say something to my guy? That one right there." So that's how good Jamarcus Shepard is.
That's great insight, Rodney. Good stuff.
Oh.
So many great things available on the website, TiderInsider.com. We're talking a ton of football, and it's mid-February. There's a lot going on other than that as well. How do people log in and sign on, Rodney?
Yeah, it's TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with your credit card, or if you prefer, there is an address there to send a check that gives you all our premium information, but also our all sports forum. That's our community there. That's where it all happens. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. A lot going on. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's not so good.
Well, I tell you, TiderInsider is great. Been a member since the day it launched, and man, I love all the information. Love the message boards as well, and it is the spot to be. And Rodney, we appreciate you always putting the link of our interview on TI.
Yes,
our viewers and our listeners greatly appreciate that, and we do too. So thank you so much, Rodney, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Hey, I thank you guys, man. I really appreciate it, and you take care.
Yep, there you go.
You
Rodney
too, buddy.
Orr. Yep. TiderInsider.com joins us. Brought to you by the Destin Connection Seafood Market, where shrimp, they got it, John.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're exactly right. And I know our chat line loves the way I pronounce shrimp, and they got plenty of it there, medium, large, and jumbo, peel, devein. They can do it all for you there at Destin Connection. Rodney is sponsored each week by the Destin Connection Seafood Market, which is your crawfish destination for both the spicy boiled and live crawfish. David's got plenty of them for you. 3750 Norman Bridge Road, or call ahead 288-4272. Before we go to break, Barry, as we were touching on it, Rodney talked about Jamarcus Shepard, the wide receivers coach at Alabama. He is featured prominently in episode 1 of The Tides That Bind. If you hadn't seen it yet, I don't want to give anything away. It's really interesting if you like stuff like that. I thought it was good because, Barry, there's some old school in it, as well as I'm sitting there watching them going, okay, I remember these kind of coaches. I remember these kind of meeting rooms. I remember these kind of practices. And the thing that I liked about it, wide receivers are known as prima donnas. They can get out there and, complain that they were getting held or tugged, or they're not getting the ball thrown to them a lot. And there's a segment in there where Coach Shepard lets some wide receivers, some very well-known wide receivers, that he doesn't like their hairstyle, their attitude, a lot of other things. There is some spicy language that is not edited out. And I'm saying, oh, yeah. And this pay streaming service. So this isn't, Fox News. This is a streaming service that you got to pay for, which I have no problem paying for. But be aware that if you got the kiddies in the room, there are segments of it that are locker room talk, if you will.
Yeah. That's the old school John's talking about. Bad language and coaches yelling at you. That's what John's familiar with. Hey, can I give a shout out real quick? I know we're late for a break, but I got to give a shout out. What a absolute rock solid stand up guy Range Pro is. Range Pro, I'm telling you, look at that. I mean, took one on the chin last night with Bama. Yeah, he said Bama, they're going to shake away the effects of the Auburn loss, and they'll get back on track against Missouri. Didn't happen, but take Patrick Rogers coming up in the first round of the Mexico Open. The Mexico Open sounds like something from Club Pro guy. Is there a Mexico Open?
Well, Club Pro guy, was on the Mexican mini tour.
That's what I'm thinking.
So, the Mexican Open. Is there a 25% tariff on the Mexican Open? How does that work? But hey, Range Pro, he follows it. He's on it. Speaking of taking it on the chin, when we return, Barry, it's the Phantom's Daily Dog. We'll talk about that before we get to Bart Hyche our college basketball insider.
Yep, we are at the Montgomery Regional Airport in association with Yellowhammer News. It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Hey, joining us today is Mary Ann from Marguerite's Exquisite Jewelry, 8163 Vaughn Road in Pepper Tree. And it looks like Mary Ann's in the repair shop there at Marguerite's, which is very important because Mary Ann, from time to time, a bracelet or a necklace or something, might break or something might happen. And you have a full service repair shop there at Marguerite's.
We do, definitely. Yeah. Don't worry. I'm not going to be the one to repair your jewelry, but I am in the shop today. So I've got all the tools around, and we really do. When they say we make it, we really make it. We do at Marguerite's. We have 3 in-house jewelers, which is amazing. Custom engraving machine, laser engraving, hand tools, you name it, 3D printer. And I hear that your wife may be in need of us pretty soon.
Yep. We were out of town, and she was taking off a sweater, and her necklace got caught, and it broke the chain. I said, honey, no sweat. When we get back home, I'm taking it straight to Marguerite's. They'll have it repaired in no time.
Definitely, yes. Sweaters, long sleeve shirts, or gosh, like a toddler, whoever. A chain sometimes gets pulled, and we can do it in-house. I've had so many people come in to Marguerite's and just say, I need a new chain. I broke mine. I'm just like, well, you can get a new chain, but we can actually repair it here. We've got torches and laser welders and so many different things to fix those chains. And so, just bring it. We can fix it up in-house, which is great. It's not going anywhere. And we can also size those rings up. Or my mom broke a bracelet. I never took it off, and she had to have a little medical procedure, and it's like hanging on by a thread. So I carried it with me today to get it fixed. So you snag something, don't worry. We can get it knocked out and fixed at Marguerite's.
Open 7 days a week for your convenience there in Pepper Tree on Vaughn Road, 8163 Vaughn Road. Mary Ann, I'm telling you, I'm bringing that necklace as soon as I get back in town. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, here we are back at it on a live edition of Longshore and McKnight. Of course, you can watch us anytime at your convenience, streamed all day long at yellowhammernews.com, on Facebook, on YouTube. You can check us out on Instagram, on X, we're on Spotify. So many ways to enjoy our content here. We really appreciate it. Make sure you always hit the like button and the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything. It just helps us out. We greatly appreciate it.
Well, we were talking earlier this week. I wonder if Bart Hyche's ears were burning. He's our resident basketball expert. It did not escape our attention, the Tuesday night win at the Hump for number 21 Mississippi State by 16 over a number 7 Texas A&M team that was on a 4-game winning streak. Bart Hyche joins us now to talk a little hoops. Good morning, Bart. How you doing?
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I kind of own a little. This coffee, tasted good yesterday morning. Tasting good again this morning.
I bet
I'm not used to midweek wins at the Hump, so
Well, hey, not only that, a midweek win, but what about the big win in Oxford over the weekend?
Yeah. Well, anytime you get the brooms out with those guys, we're used to doing it in baseball, but in basketball it typically splits and it's a tough rivalry. But all seriousness, that for Coach Jans with the last few weeks and going through the stretch that State went through, I think I told you all about his family, he and Sherry losing their dog, just all these things piling up at once. It's life. It's adversity. It's what these kids are going to have to get used to when they get out in the real world and start working, start supporting families, and start having people to take care of at home. And those things are real, whether we want to allow them to be for coaches or not. At the same time, I remember just how upset he was, and he's just so competitive, and just not used to. He's always been in leagues to where he was probably able to out-tough and out-coach everybody. Let's just keep it real, right? You win 30 games in New Mexico State. They almost beat Auburn. But now you're in a league to where it's not in, not out. And it's deep. And the players are elite. And other teams may have more pros than you. And you have to find out different ways to tweak what you're doing to tweak what you're doing against the other team. But the Oxford win after football, what we've had to go through the last few years and losing to our rival, and just to sweep them is huge anytime. But to do it the second time up there and to hear the maroon and white chants just bellowing through that place as they were leaving with like 4 minutes before the under 4 timeout, it's special. And I think it's something that our guys they'll continue on. Y'all heard me say it, guys. We lost 4 out of 5 the Final Four year. I always go back to it. It happens. Alabama's hit a tough stretch right now. It happens, man. But can you get it collectively better at the right time? And I know John definitely doesn't think Alabama will after last night. But he's got to be on. He's got to be on this morning.
Well, let me ask you about that then, because first of all, the tone of 1 versus 2 on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Alabama never leads that game. Auburn looks strong early, and they win it by 9. In your experience, was last night's Alabama's defensive debacle, giving up 110 points to Missouri, was there a carryover from the loss to Auburn on Saturday? Is that even a thing, Bart?
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is. It was a carryover for both teams. The emotion of playing in a game like that. I mean, you saw what happened to Auburn. Auburn could have got beat last night. And boy, wouldn't that have been great. That would have solidified Cal in the tournament. But for Alabama has problems with big physical teams and teams that are longer on the perimeter. They can turn them over. Ole Miss did it. Missouri did it. Auburn didn't necessarily do it with the turnovers as much. But, I mean, Missouri had 21 points off turnovers last night. Yeah. And Alabama got drilled from the free throws.
Yeah.
47 free throws. They could not guard without fouling the entire game.
I say it all the time in the South games when I do them, Barry. And you saw even last night, perfect example, South going on the road and winning the game and now being first in the conference, beating Arkansas State. They don't foul. Now, they do play zone, but they don't foul people. And Alabama's guards, and that was one of the knocks on Holloway at Auburn, is he did not guard. And they didn't guard well enough to play for Bruce Pearl. Mark Sears is extremely physical, big-time competitor, but he's not that big. And length matters. It does when you're trying to guard guys on the perimeter in the SEC. But, Missouri's good. Missouri's physical. Missouri's everything that's a problem for Alabama, and Alabama fell right into the mode. Now, they make 13 threes, though?
Yes.
Something like that. They made a bunch of threes.
Yeah, Mark Sears had 35 points.
35.
Yeah. I mean, but guys, it's the defense that you don't have a rim protector. That's what you've had the last 2-3 years. People can finish at the rim on you. But, Barry, you nailed it. I mean, the ability the rest of this season, when you see these conference games, when you see these conference tournaments, when you see this NCAA tournament, the teams that can make shots, rebound, and play without fouling, if you can do those 3 things every night, you're going to have a good chance to win.
Well, Bart, that probably everything you've described about Alabama, I guess, tells us why they have scored 184 points in their last 2 games and never led in either one of them. Wow. How do you score 184 points without leading in the game? And in both those games, Auburn and Missouri, they spotted the opposition a 21-0 lead to start the game.
What was
combined together? They're down 21-0.
I was looking at the stats, and I don't know if it's in here. Yeah, I mean, Alabama, it's not the offense, guys. I mean, you're scoring that many points.
Yeah.
I mean, last night you had to score high. I mean, you would have had to score a lot of points to win that game. We got to quit sleeping on Missouri, guys. They got young talent. They got old dudes. I mean, they're the 5th best team in the league, above Tennessee, in my opinion. When it gets down to the end, they can score it. They got a guy that can stand out there and knock down a lot of shots. And then they've got Bates. The lefty can go, man. He's been in the league for like 4 years. He's a matchup nightmare, especially how he comes at people early in games. So, John, how do you do that? I looked at that stat, and that's the largest lead, 20-0 last night.
Yeah.
And I think somehow Nate has got – this is one of the worst defensive teams that Nate Oates has had. I think that is starting to be glaringly evident. To me, it's the rim protection. I've always thought that Nate Oates puts too much on Grant Nelson to guard people in the post. That's just me. I think he has to expend so much energy down there that it affects everything else. And then Diabate is a good player, but he's not that big of a post player on the defensive end. Plays hard, offensive rebounds, that type thing. But, you're missing Bediako. I mean, we talked about it last year. You make a Final Four without him, but the guards have to be able to guard the other team's guards without putting them on the free throw line and without getting yourself in foul trouble. That, to me, is the biggest key with Alabama's defense. You got to start up at the head of the snake. The head of the snake right now ain't guarding nobody.
And Nate Oates has tried a lot of different things. I mean, he didn't play Sears in the second half of a home game. I mean, gets a tech, slamming down his clipboard. There's a little motivational stuff that you can kind of see. What can he do, Bart? I mean, they are now in mid-February. They are who they are.
They are, and it's practice. I mean, it's got to. I mean, look at Mississippi State about 3 weeks ago. After that Alabama game, after you get beat 25 or 27, I mean, State got beat over 25 twice at home. All right. Am I putting State in Alabama's category as far as are they as good as – I don't know. But I know it's about matchups in the NCAA tournament. And I know it's about whoever you get on that other side and you say, oh, that might be a – well, Alabama's a name now. They're going to get everybody's best shot. They done been there to that Final Four. This ain't football, and you still getting everybody's best shot. What can he do? It's got to be practice to me. That's the number one thing that you just have to collectively build confidence and toughness and have one complete defensive practice and don't shoot one shot. Bring out the old chairs and Hoosiers, John Longshore. Just mix up something one day. One day, hammer them. Hammer, either it's what's that? Well, you really can't because you got to play on Saturday. But you have to be careful of things. How you tire guys out, and rest days, being nice to guys. Making sure they know everything's okay. At some point, you got to have a blood and gutter. That's what we used to call them.
Are you talking about running the picket fence? I mean, is that?
Hey, I lie. Barry Dunning comes off that picket fence about as good as anybody in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, he was
They run it all the time for him.
He was good yesterday.
I feel like back to basics. When things start going south, especially defensively, typically it's fundamental here, fundamental there. And is my help anticipating enough? Am I really getting out hard enough to contest on that shooter and anticipating the ball might come my way so I can ease over in a position to get to that? A hand in the face matters, whether it's 2 feet or 4 feet. It matters. And I think the key, the defense, blood and gutter, all that, but the word is urgency. Nate Oates has got to find some semblance of urgency in these guys, especially on the defensive end.
All right, Bart. So we all know Auburn is the class of the league right now, and probably the class of the nation. I mean, I'm very impressed.
I would agree.
We've seen Alabama leaking oil over the last couple of games. Who's a team in the league? And maybe it's Mississippi State with 2 impressive wins since we last spoke with you. But is there a team? What team in your mind in the SEC is trending upward that maybe we need to keep a closer look at?
I'm still on Florida. I still think that Florida is as good as Auburn. I do. I don't think Auburn is I think Auburn is the clear-cut best team in the conference and best team in the country. I don't want to sound like Carl Ravitch here and say something that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they're 81 and 81. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Auburn has lost a total of 1 game. I don't know how I would mess that up. Or 2 games. But I think Florida in an NCAA setting, when you get Auburn didn't play well last night at the Jungle, but they are a different team at the Jungle. But they've proven they can go on the road to your rival. They've proven they can go on the road and win anywhere. But I still think Florida in a tournament setting, one game is a matchup nightmare with those guards and those bigs for somebody. So I would elevate them in that category to have the potential to win a national championship. Right now, to me, there's two teams in the SEC that can win the national championship, and that's Florida and Auburn. That's the two. Right now, that could change. I think State's trending, and I would keep an eye on Mississippi State, guys, because Mississippi State's schedule is as easy as anybody's going forward. They've gotten through the gauntlet. The February is almost over. Yeah, I'm not saying that the teams that State's playing, you can lose every game. It's the SEC, and it's the toughest league in the league, toughest league in the nation. But it eases a little bit. You go to Oklahoma this weekend. Kind of a trap game. You got LSU again, right? You've got some teams on the schedule that you feel like you can compete with. You got Vandy again, I think it is. Or, I wouldn't be done with. I mean, Missouri's still trending. I think Missouri's up there. I'm not going to say Tennessee. I'm not going to say Arkansas. A&M. I like A&M. I know they got blown out in Starkville somewhat the other night, but the way they play and the physicality of the way they play. I mean, you literally can almost just throw a dart at a board right now and pick an SEC team that you don't want to face after the season. But for me right now, the teams I'm watching, obviously I'm watching, but State's schedule puts them in a position that if you get hot late and some things go right, you could sneak into that double bye, fourth place in the SEC. They're only 2 games back of that. That's what I'm looking at now, is how these seeds move, right? Is it going to be Tennessee or is it going to be Missouri that gets that bye, right? Is it going to be A&M? How does that shuffle happen? But John, Mississippi State right now, I think to me, and Florida are the two teams that I see trending up after the last 2 weeks or last week.
Barry, here's an example of a guy that knows ball based on the text I received last week. Bradley and Drake, Youngstown State and Cleveland State, Utah.
Oh, the Penguins and the Vikings?
I mean, these are the games I'm getting on my phone to make sure I'm watching. Man,
you put the Penguins and the Vikings together, you can throw out the record books now.
Yeah, you can always throw out the record books in that one, Barry. But it's what I do is I catch John. I'm not making him watch a whole game, Barry. You can't keep his attention span.
Yeah,
you're talking to the choir here. Yeah,
I know that you know as well as anybody what I'm speaking of. At the same time, I can see it. I see these rivalries. The Utah State New Mexico game the other night. You can see these games trending. This is going to be a good finish. So I'll catch him, maybe about 12 to go. Sometimes I'll just turn it on and it's like a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go. But I mean, it's a good system for John and I, because sometimes it's a minute and a half of attention span. Sometimes it's about 10 minutes attention span. So,
yeah.
There you go.
Beautiful. So who tonight? Who do we need to check out? Who do we need to check out tonight, Bart?
Well, guys, I actually haven't looked at anything tonight. And Barry, where are you?
We are at home tonight. We're at the Montgomery Airport doing a live thing, but we are Troy is at home tonight against Louisiana, who we played last week. So
and that's a little somewhat of a trap game now. I'm interested in that game. I'm interested in the ASUN race. I'm interested in the Sun Belt race, the ASUN race that now Tony Pujo up in North Alabama. Against my guy, against Lenny Acuff and Grant Leonard. I don't know who all those teams play tonight because actually tonight, guys, I will be keeping up with the ASUN. The Southern Conference with what's going on with Sanford. There was a big game last night with ETSU and whoever else was at the top of the conference. I think, but also I'm watching that Sun Belt, man, because it's the intriguing one. We got a couple of teams in the state involved. But tonight I'm actually taping the bracketology pregame show at WOTM for the high school tournament next week. So I'll be breaking down every single high school game and high school team that's going to the Final Four tonight. So y'all pray for me.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bart, because there's a lot of excitement in my house and around the Montgomery community. There's a team here in the capital city that's really good, and they're going to be in Birmingham for the Final Four talking about the Eagles over at MA, and man, I'm telling you, they're good.
I've watched them, and as of right now, you can tell everybody in Montgomery they are my 3A pick to win the boys as of right now. And I'll go back. I've got a couple more things I got to watch. I actually talked to Katie Barton last night over at St. James. Her daughter, Nat Barton, is just turning a lot of heads, got some D1 offers. We will have her on the show tonight. We'll chat with her about her Trojans and getting back. This is her third Final Four. And also Blake Smith, man, what he's done over there at Trinity with those girls. Nobody has really, myself included, given him nearly enough praise for what he's done. A couple of daughters on the team, and they actually have moved up to 4A now, and they will be. They've won 2 3As, and they will be competing for the 4A. But they play Plainview, who moved up as well. So you're playing a familiar team, but it'll be in 4A. Montgomery basketball. I mean, I think Park Crossing may. The boys may be in it. I've got to go back and do my 5A, 6A, and 7A after there's a big one today up in Jacksonville, Barry and John. Hoover and Huntsville. What a lot of people think is the state championship game.
Yeah.
I'll tell y'all something now, and this is out of nowhere. Don't sleep on the Florence Falcons. We're taking it back. We're taking it back to the Coffee High School days.
I got you.
The Florence Falcons are going to the 7A, and they are the 7A semifinals, and they are talented. That's a team that nobody knows about that I would keep my eye on. Obviously, they probably have to run into Hoover or Huntsville, but state championships, you never know. But you're right, John. Montgomery basketball, big time. I haven't dove in personnel-wise like I'm going to on Montgomery Academy. But from what I saw the other day, the way they handled a good Lee Scott team, and that was the regional that midfield came through last year to win it. I like this MA team, and so people should be excited, even in your household, John.
That's right.
Yeah,
Bart
it's
Hyche,
pretty good.
Yep. Check him out on social media, on X and Twitter, BHyche22. He is elbow deep in the high school tournament next week. Lots of great stuff. Bart, we appreciate you very much.
As always, guys. Good luck tonight, Barry.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Bart. As always, great insight. Our college basketball insider, Bart Hyche, joining us here today as he does each and every week. I know everybody's chomping at the bit. The Phantoms Daily Dog is coming. I can promise you that. We're going to do that this morning as well. Got about 8 minutes to go in the broadcast today. We might move the Victoryland topic wheel to tomorrow. We got a lot of great topics, but we want to give each topic enough time. And I don't think we're going to have enough time, Barry, because Robbie has submitted War and Peace in his recap of last night's Bama loss.
15 lines from Robbie. He's up and thoroughly caffeinated. We are live at the Montgomery Regional Airport in association with Yellowhammer News. It's Longshore McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Dixie Electric Plumbing and Air rallies for you. No matter the problem, Dixie will tackle it. Their licensed and trusted electricians, plumbers, air and garage door technicians are ready to win for you. From toilets to garbage disposals, circuit breakers to HVAC systems, Dixie never fumbles. Don't throw away your hard-earned money on second-string contracting companies. Score big with Dixie. After all, they are your biggest fan. Visit calldixie.com or dial them up locally at 262-2946. Local banking expertise, the newest innovations and technology, personal attention, genuine hospitality. It's all just part of the Riverbank and Trust difference. They invite you to experience it for yourself. Welcome to banking above and beyond at Riverbank and Trust.
Don't miss your chance to win big at Victoryland Casino. Play the latest, hottest, most exciting games around with fun bonuses and big jackpots. Don't miss out on your free play. Stop by Player Rewards today and check out this month's exciting free play promotions. Come see why our players keep coming back. You'll have more fun at Victoryland Casino, where you can be a winner too. Victoryland Casino, located off I-85 exit 22, Shorter, Alabama. Must be 21 or older.
Okay, we got a few minutes to go here on our live broadcast, but as always, we like to remind you, you can check us out anytime you want at your convenience at yellowhammernews.com, on Facebook, on YouTube, Spotify. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're all over the place. Make sure to check us out. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. We'd really appreciate it. It doesn't cost anything. It just helps us out, and we greatly appreciate you doing so.
Hey, tell your friends, especially your Bama friends, that that you can check us out on TiderInsider.com as well. You like what you see? It's not live every day, but it's the Rodney Orr segment that we do, and you kind of like the cut of what we do. You kind of like the way things are. Check us out, all the different venues that John talks about. You mentioned convenience. You can check us out at your convenience on Loop. Convenience is a big buzzword where we are right now, John, at the Montgomery Regional Airport.
Well, it certainly is. Seen so many people taking advantage of the convenience here at MGM, flying out wherever they're making their connection to. So many convenient hubs in Atlanta, Charlotte, Dallas, Fort Worth, or Washington's Reagan National Airport. If you're just going to one of those 4 destinations, or you need to make a quick, easy connection to destinations all over the globe, it needs to start right here at MGM. Check it out at flymgm.com. Okay, so the Phantom's Daily Dog is ready to go here today, Barry. And
all right.
Yesterday we had Vanderbilt plus the 5.5 at Kentucky. We were close at halftime, and then the Commodores didn't come back out of the locker room because they got blown out in the second half by Kentucky there in Rupp Arena. It was a tough one for the Phantom's Daily Dog last night, going down 82-61 to the Kentucky Wildcats, obviously not covering the 5.5. So today,
they get outscored by 20 in the second half.
How about
20
that? Didn't even leave the didn't show up. Unbelievable. I mean, could they have not been like Alabama and only given up 51 in the second half instead of 59? I mean, that would have been nice. But
Alabama gave up 59 in the first half against Missouri last night. Vanderbilt scores 61 in the whole game. Boy.
Yeah, the whole daggum game. Unbelievable. So we felt good at halftime, but, didn't cash in for us. So tonight, we are going to the association, the NBA, in a really tough Eastern Conference matchup tonight. In Atlanta at State Farm Arena, Barry, the Orlando Magic coming to town with only a half a game lead over the Hawks in the Eastern Division. How about that? Only a half a game lead.
How about that?
And the Hawks are catching 1.5 at home tonight. Barry, we got a home dog that's only a half a game behind the team they're playing tonight. We're going to grab that 1.5 at home and take the Atlanta Hawks against the Orlando Magic in NBA action tonight from State Farm Arena.
Yep, Orlando is 27-29. The Hawks are 26-29, but they are at home. I like it. And we're going to do it every day. The dog of the day, the Phantom's Daily Dog, comes up all the time. Tomorrow, gosh, we got an entire weekend's worth of basketball. Could be anything. But
there
I
you
like
go.
This one. This one's a good one today.
Could be anything.
For sure. Yep.
Yep, the Atlanta Hawks take them at home, catching 1.5 tonight. All right, so Robbie with his, I don't want to say Barry excuses, but they seem kind of like an excuse.
Well, basically he recaps everything we talked about. We had Theodis earlier today say, I haven't heard you guys mention the Auburn game score. We mentioned it about 3 times. Robbie, he basically recaps a lot of what he said. And it's in 3 rather lengthy epistles. He says, Alabama's defense was very poor last night. In other news, water is wet. The sky is blue. Alabama's defense was very poor last night. Since the second half of the Texas game, Alabama's defense has struggled against dribble drives. Tigers got to the foul line 47 times. Converting 31. Missouri's Caleb Grill shot from anywhere on the court coming off the bench. These slow starts have only happened in the last 2 games. Hopefully things are different Saturday versus Kentucky. Going into Texas game, Bama was the top 40 defense in Ken Palm, but in the last 2.5 games, it's been bad. Nate Oates has to use something other than man-to-man defense against certain teams. and matchups. Somebody said, I can't remember whether it was on the chat line or at TiderInsider.com, that Alabama's defensive performance last night, according to Ken Palm at KenPalm.com, which that guy has money on stuff, was the 8th worst defensive performance in the nation this year. Only 7 teams all year, all over the country, played worse defensively than Alabama did last night. The number 2 team in the country at the moment.
That's tough. And Bart Hyche brought up a good point that I heard the guys on the broadcast bring up last night about Mark Sears. With his height and his build, if he's going up against taller, bigger guards, which he did last night in these Missouri guards, he's got a very difficult time being able to guard them.
Yeah, well, and Bart was talking about that. Alabama has difficulty with length, with big physical post defenders, and they sure enough have a hard time with bigger guards, 6'4", 6'5" guards. Ole Miss had them. That was a key. Auburn, not so much in that game, but they have big physical players as well. So, a number 1 seed to John to go full circle back to John opening up the show, and not a number 1 seed. But does that mean this team sucks? We're off the bandwagon. They're on their own now. I'm jumping off. I don't think it's time for that.
Well, Barry, I tell you, the remainder of the regular season is going to be very difficult for the Crimson Tide. They're all against ranked opposition, going to Nashville, playing in the SEC tournament. Never know what could happen there. Could get a team that's hot or get a bad draw. And then they just got to play better defense. I mean, they can score. That's obvious. They can score, but if you can't stop anybody, it's going to be difficult for you to win and extend your season. But there again, I came into the day show. I thought about it last night. How many times have we come on and said, wow, man, this team is unbelievable. I haven't felt that way all year. The eye test has not told me that. There's got to be some big changes, mainly on defense for Alabama, or this team's not going to go where their fan base expected them to.
Well, John, I got to confess, I have been on the road so much, and I'll be on the road every show next week, that I have actually lost track of which Stivers location we'll be broadcasting from tomorrow. I can't remember.
We will be at Stivers. Yep, we'll be at Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where Price sells cars. Looking forward to being out there. On the where the Eastern Boulevard meets the Troy Highway, 4000 Boulevard. We'll be there broadcasting live from Stivers Ford, but you can, as always, check us out anytime on your schedule.
Yes. Make sure you tell your friends, like and subscribe. All about this program. We are live at the Montgomery Regional Airport. He's John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.